Hey everyone, Vermilion here. Just mixing some paint. I have a self-portrait in the background here that I've been working on for some time, and it's kind of irrelevant, but I'm working on it. Yeah, I just thought I would have a chat while I was mixing because it's kind of therapeutic. So one thing I haven't mentioned before on this channel is that I'm actually polyamorous. I'm solo polyamorous, which means that while I do see multiple partners, I class no partner as like what I call a primary. And I know that there's a lot of debate when it comes to labeling in polyamorous relationships, putting one person over the other and things like that. And there's relationship anarchy, which I practice myself. But for me, I like to label things because then they become tangible. Of course, these labels are not concrete. They are flexible and can definitely change at any given moment. But the way that I like to do things is that I label myself so that then my boundaries are clear. I have found it really freeing and fulfilling. Polyamory has changed my life, and although the breakup of my last relationship, which was over a decade long, while that was extremely painful, I was born into a whole new way of living, which I wanted to live like before, but there was no way that I could. The reason why I feel like this fits in with being on the spectrum is that it allows me to not have to answer to expectation too much, because I don't even know what I can give on any certain day in terms of social interaction or affection. I am affectionate, particularly when it comes to alone time. Like, if I'm alone with one of my partners, I find it very special, and cuddling on a bed and talking, being intimate, like having sex, is very special to me. But outside of that, holding hands, and like, I have done it before in serious relationships, but for me, it always feels a bit wooden. Like, if I really love someone, I'll hug them, but it's complex. I don't even think I can explain it right now. But yeah, one of my main problems is my brain likes me to see things in black or white because it makes the world simpler. Likes to pretend there's less variables, but there definitely is chaos. As I mentioned in my last video, when it comes to sound, the world is full of chaos, and I feel like my brain desperately tries to prove that it's not to myself, but it very much is. So of course, with multiple relationships, I call them connections, because relationship is, to me, too much of a demanding word. Connection means we've made a good connection. It's beyond friends with benefits, but it's not exactly a relationship where expectations can take a hold of myself or even the other person. I have seen a lot of solo polyamorous people, and it works quite well, because we not that every solo polyamorous person is the same, but generally there's a lot less expectation in terms of I don't want to say neediness, like, yeah, it's like, I don't want to say a wavelength, but you're on the same wavelength. I hate using that word, but yeah, I just did. Yeah, what my brain tries to do, sorry I got off track then, is that ultimately it wants a person that I can see like once a month, and I can have many of these. So, you know, every week I could be seeing someone, but it's a different person. When the connection starts out and there's a lot of communication and then that backs off, my brain just like completely fritzes out. And I don't know how to explain like why it happens or anything like that. All I know is that it's usually in the circumstance of lots of contact, no contact, or you can feel that sort of initial excitement dying off. And that, it's like because my brain wants to see it as one thing or nothing, it freaks out a little bit. And it's quite unattractive. Like the way that I start talking is, it sounds like I'm really insecure and demanding and needy, but I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. It's kind of complex. It's hard to explain, but it's just one thing that I kind of consider being on the spectrum affects my relationships a little bit. But yeah, I really think that solo polyamory is a great match for me because of my inability to be with someone even in the same room a lot of the time. I mean, by the end of my last long-term relationship, I always had a separate room for like my art stuff and creating. But we were rarely hanging out together in the evenings after my partner would get home from work. So, you know, that isolation is something that I have to have, and it's not very healthy for relationships. Like, especially for relationships that need, some sort of affection. And yeah, it has allowed me to be myself fully and still function, getting attention that I desire, yeah, and crave, because I do crave closeness and connection. I love it. I love meeting, new people and connecting. I feel like I'm better at connecting on a polyamorous level than I am, as a friend. I understand what the goal is. I have, been on enough half serious dates to understand, you both want the same thing, but you may or may not want it once you've met each other, say if you've met through a dating app first. But at least I know it's either on or off. It's very binary. But, other conversations and other situations are very... there's the variables coming into it again. So it's less predictable. I'm kind of rambling, but I'm just having a chat at this point about my polyamorous lifestyle. I've seen a lot of things on sex and being on the spectrum. I really enjoy sex. Almost, I don't want to say to a fault, because I don't know, I'm not ashamed of it at all. I always have a good time, and it never seems to be negative in any way. I'm safe, and yeah, I don't tend to use it for escapism. I do it for the genuineness and connections that I form. For me, it's a non-verbal way of connecting, which I really enjoy. I just love that. It's hard to explain how much it's relieving to me. It's like we don't have to talk here. We can let our bodies do the talking for us and enjoy ourselves. Yeah, I haven't always been that way, but generally, I've always enjoyed sex and connecting like that, way more than any other kind of connection. So yeah, I've noticed that a few people I know that are on the spectrum are also in polyamorous setups. I think it might go hand in hand sometimes with being on the spectrum, as there's that different way of thinking and not putting too much value on one certain type of relationship that could come into it. I'm not sure, but all I know is that I value the connections that I've formed quite a lot. I like meeting new connections, and it allows me to come back home and be what I class as single. I live independently of any help financially from anyone else. Nobody sleeps in my bed. That's my bed. That is my bed. Yeah, I love my poly life. I hope you found that interesting. It wasn't very scripted or well prepared, but I enjoyed talking about it. Signing off for Melanie.